You know that feeling. You're stuck on the couch, you can't get started on that big thing you need to do, and you just feel this heavy weight that you've always called laziness. But what if I told you that's not what it is at all? That it's not some deep character flaw, but actually a signal. A signal that your brain is trying to tell you something else is going on. That you're not lazy, you're just lost. So let's just ask the question right up front. When you can't get moving, is it really about a lack of willpower? Or could it be that a deeper lack of clarity is actually triggering your brain's internal emergency brake? We're going to really dig into that feeling and, more importantly, find a way forward. All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start by totally dismantling the laziness lie. Then we'll pop the hood and look at the brain science, the emergency brake that gets pulled when we feel lost. We'll see how that creates this vicious panic, helplessness cycle. From there, we'll reframe the whole problem, shifting from lazy to lost. And then we get to the good stuff, actionable steps to build momentum, and how to use good old-fashioned curiosity as your compass to find your way again. Okay, so let's get right into it. We have to start with this idea that has held so many of us captive. Forever. We've been handed this super simple but really unhelpful diagnosis for why we don't take action. We're just lazy. Ugh, you can just hear that voice, can't you? Maybe it's a parent, an old teacher, or maybe, and this is the worst one, it's our own inner critic. It's this harsh judgment that just flattens the whole complex situation into a simple failure of will. It's a dead end. All it gives you is shame, not a solution. But here's the big idea, the pivot for this whole explainer. What if that feeling isn't a moral failing? What if it's actually a pretty sophisticated, even protective biological signal that our brain sends when it cannot see a clear, safe path forward? And that idea? Well, it takes us right into the neurobiology of feeling stuck. Because this isn't just in your head, it is literally in your brain's wiring. So our ancient, prehistoric brain is trying to make sense of the modern world, right? And when you're staring at some huge, undefined project or just thinking about an uncertain future, your brain doesn't see a to-do list. Oh no, it sees a dark, unfamiliar forest filled with who knows what. It perceives a threat. And when your brain perceives a threat, what does it do? It hits the big red button, the fight, flight, or freeze response. This is a totally automatic, physiological reaction. Its only job is survival. And to make sure you survive, it shuts down anything it considers non-essential. And guess what's on that list? Things like long-term planning, motivation, creativity, all of it. That feeling of being totally stuck, unable to move, that's freeze. It is a full-body, system-wide emergency brake. And this is the part you have to get. Your deep, instinctual animal brain literally takes the wheel from your rational thinking brain. So yelling at yourself to just do it, it's like screaming at a car to go while your foot is still mashing the emergency brake. The whole system is physically locked down. You can't just force your way out. And here's where it gets really tricky. This biological shutdown doesn't just happen once and then go away. It actually kicks off this downward spiral that digs us deeper and deeper into that feeling of being stuck. This slide just maps out that whole vicious cycle perfectly. Look, it starts with a lack of clarity. Your brain reads that as a threat, so it hits the freeze button. That leads to inaction and feeling overwhelmed. Then what do? We look at our own inaction and pull out that old, useless label. Ugh, I'm so lazy. Well, that self-criticism just spikes your stress, which clouds your thinking even more, leading to, you guessed it, even less clarity. And around we go. So how in the world do we break this cycle? Well, it all starts with a very simple but incredibly powerful shift in how we diagnose the problem in the first place. This right here is the whole ballgame. On one hand, you have the lazy label. It says it's a character flaw, it's a lack of willpower, and the solution is just to force it, which, as we know, doesn't work. But on the other hand, you have the lost reality. This says it's not a flaw, it's a brain state. The cause isn't a lack of willpower, it's a lack of clarity. And the solution isn't force. A threatened brain needs safety signals. It needs proof that the next step is actually safe to take. Okay, so that brings us to the how. If the problem is a locked up emergency brake, how do we gently, carefully release it? See, the goal is to stop fighting our own biology and start working with it. We need to send our brain a series of tiny, undeniable signals that say, hey, see, we're moving. It's okay. There's a path here. And we do that by creating really, really small, achievable wins. So let's talk about the chemistry of what's happening here. Every single time you complete a task, even a ridiculously tiny one, your brain gives you a little hit of dopamine. Now, dopamine isn't just about feeling good, it's the molecule of motivation. It's what tells your brain, hey, that worked, do that again. It's the chemical fuel that gets your engine to turn over. So here is a super practical 4-step plan to get that engine running again. First, try a mini dopamine detox. Seriously. Just 15 minutes a day of being bored. No phone, no TV can reset your brain's reward system. Second, define one single conquerable task. And I mean tiny. Not write the report, but open the document and write one sentence. Step 3, give yourself a simple reward. Just checking a box or drawing a star on a piece of paper works wonders. That visual proof is the trigger for the dopamine. And finally, to get over that hump of just starting, use Mel Robbins' 5-second rule. Count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then physically move. It just flips a switch in your brain from thinking to doing. And here's another great mental trick for that anxious, jittery feeling you get before you start something new. Physiologically, in your body, it's the exact same as excitement. Your heart races, your palms get sweaty. The only difference is the story, the label your brain puts on it. So instead of saying, I'm so afraid to start, try saying, I'm excited to figure this out. You can actually relabel that energy from a threat into a fun challenge. Okay, so these small wins get the engine started, they get you moving. But what about the bigger picture of feeling lost? How do you find a direction? Well, the key here is to take all the pressure off of finding the one perfect path. Get this. Research shows that when you're prospecting for opportunities, whether it's in business or just in life, only about 10% of the things you try will actually be a real fit. Just 10%. Now, if you go in expecting 90% of the things you explore not to be the right answer, it totally changes the game. The pressure just evaporates. I want you to think of it like this. Imagine a giant gumball machine, and it's almost entirely full of red gumballs. But you're looking for the very rare blue ones. Your job isn't to grab a red gumball and try to convince it to become blue. Your job isn't to force a fit. It's simply to sort. You just calmly set aside the red ones until you find a blue one. This sorting method is so liberating because it totally reframes what failure or rejection even means. They stop being personal. When a path isn't right, you don't have to get upset or feel like you failed. You just go, okay, that's a red gumball. And you gently put it aside and keep looking, staying curious, knowing your only job is to keep sorting until you find a match. And really, that brings us right back to the biggest takeaway of all. That feeling we call laziness, it is almost never about a lack of will. It's a symptom that your system is locked up. And the cure isn't more force, it's finding just enough clarity to show your brain that the very next step is safe. So I'll just leave you with this one question. Forget about the 5-year plan. Forget about climbing the whole mountain. Right now, today, what is the smallest, most conquerable, tiniest task you can do to send your brain that first little safety signal, to gently release that brake, and just get 1% closer to where you want to go?